Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. So in this video I am just going to go through everything that I have purchased, picked up for the month of August 2024. Mostly Blu-rays and 4Ks. There is one record here as well though. I know some people might be interested in the record, so yeah, I thought I'd show it off in this video as well. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. So first up, and as I mentioned, I did pick up a record. I'll show you that first, and it is Women and Children First by Van Halen. So yeah, this is the third album from Van Halen, the third one with David Lee Roth. And yet this is a fantastic album, very underrated from the band. Doesn't necessarily have any of their big hits on it, but it's got some great like cult classic songs from them on this one, like And the Cradle Will Rock, Fools, Everybody Wants Some. Yeah, it's a fantastic album. Picked this up from a shop that we have here in Liverpool called Dig Vinyl. It's a great shop to go to if you like sort of your old retro records and things like that, because I think this is as close to an original pressing as you're likely to get. I'm someone who's not into remastered vinyls. I don't see the point in them. If it's an older album, I want to get it as close to the original pressing as possible. And yeah, as you can see from the cover, it's all sort of worn and battered, and that's just something I love about getting old records. But yeah, that is Women and Children First by Van Halen. Right, so onto the Blu-rays now, and the first one we have here is a remake of a John Carpenter classic. I was watching a interview with John Carpenter, and somebody asked him what did he think of the remakes to his films. And he gave his answer, and then at the very end of the answer, he said out of all of the remakes, this was the one he enjoyed the most, and it kind of got me interested in checking it out. So it is Assault on Precinct 13, starring Ethan Hawke and Lawrence Fishburne. And yeah, I remember this film coming out, and I just remember it just passed me by. I took no interest in it at all. And up until I watched it a few days ago, I'd never even seen a clip from it or a trailer. I just had no idea what this film was going to be like. And on the whole, I thought it was pretty decent. It's a decent little action thriller. It's fairly similar to the original. Makes a few changes. Instead of, gangs coming to attack the precinct, it's now corrupt cops. And there's a few little differences in there, but it's always nice when remakes do something a little bit different and they don't try to completely copy the original. It maybe feels a little bit unnecessary as a remake. I think I'm always going to want to go back to the original over this film, but it's still a decent little thriller. So yeah, that is Assault on Precinct 13. Next up, I have a series of films that were actually gifted to me by my good friend Andy at Forgotten World of Movies. Well, I say gifted, they were essentially, we traded. Just to go back to Assault on Precinct 13, when I received my copy of that I actually received 2 copies. They didn't charge me for the extra copy, and I was chatting to Andy and I said to him, do you want the extra copy? And he said, yeah. And then he said, oh, I've also got something that he'd like to give to me. And yeah, it's a series of films that I've never owned on Blu-ray, seen the films many times, and I've been meaning to pick them up for a long time. So yeah, just again, thanks to Andy for passing these over to me. So it is the Harry Potter films on Blu-ray. So yeah, this is all of the films in these cases, these double-sided cases. I think they were originally part of like a box set. But I think Andy told me that the box set was pretty battered. So he's just got the individual cases. But yeah, the Harry Potter films, I've always been sort of a casual fan of them. I remember seeing the first one back in the cinema. I think I was about 11 years old, and I remember I loved it. But as the rest of the films started coming out and I started getting a bit older, I think my interest in the series started to dip quite a bit. But I have seen them all over the years, but I've been wanting to check them out again and see if they still hold up, basically. So yeah, that is the Harry Potter films on Blu-ray. Next up, we have another series of films that I've been meaning to get into over the years, and I finally decided to do that. I'll show these all one by one. So the first one we have here is Godzilla from 2014. So yeah, this is sort of the beginning of the Monsterverse franchise, if you like. Yeah, this film I have actually seen before. I remember I watched it when I was on a plane going to America. And I remember at the time I didn't enjoy it, but I think part of the reason why I didn't enjoy it is because, well, if you've ever watched a movie on a plane, it's not the best experience. It's not the best way to watch movies. So that's probably why I didn't enjoy it that time round. But this time round, I had a much better time with it. It's just a really solid blockbuster. Great looking film, great action, great sort of monster action in this. You know, you've got other monsters in this besides Godzilla. And yeah, it's just a bit of fun. It's a fun little blockbuster. And yeah, I enjoyed it on a revisit. So yeah, that is Godzilla from 2014. And then to follow up from Godzilla, we have Godzilla, King of the Monsters. So yeah, this is the sequel to the 2014 one. This one I hadn't seen before. And even though I've heard sort of mixed things about this one, I actually thought this was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I was just able to sort of turn my brain off with this one and have fun. There's lots of great action in it, great special effects. There's plenty of monsters in there, you know, the likes of Godzilla's in there. You've got Mothra, you've got Ghidorah, Rodan is in there, I think. There's all sorts of monsters in this, and yeah, just great action. Just a fun blockbuster. Again, it's, you know, leave your brain at the door kind of movie, but yeah, really enjoyed it. So that is Godzilla, King of the Monsters. And then surprise, surprise, we have Godzilla versus Kong. Yep, follow up to the previous two Godzilla films. I've got to admit, this was probably my least favourite out of them all. I know this one has sort of better reviews than the previous film, but I don't know, this one didn't really work for me as much. The action is all great, but I think it's the human story that is just a bit boring, and all of the characters in this are really, really forgettable. And I think by the time I finished this film, I think besides the action, I couldn't remember anything about the human story in this movie. So yeah, that was probably the biggest letdown for me with this one. But it was still a decent blockbuster, just not as good as the other two for me. But yeah, that is Godzilla versus Kong. And then lastly, from the Monsterverse, we have Kong Skull Island. So yeah, this is kind of like, I think chronologically, the first film in the series about this group of scientists and soldiers going to Skull Island, basically to investigate it and have a look around. And obviously King Kong is there and a whole host of other monsters, and things start to go a bit crazy. And yeah, I enjoyed this one. Another solid blockbuster. I like the sort of the Vietnam setting for this one. Great cast in there as well. Overall, it was a really fun movie. Another great one from the Monsterverse. So yeah, that is Kong Skull Island. Right, so the rest of the items that I have here are all boutique releases. And the first one I have here is from Shameless Films. So that's a label that I don't tend to delve into all that much, but every so often they do release like a hidden gem. This is a film that they have had on DVD for a long time, and I've been meaning to pick it up, but I just never got around to it. But as soon as they announced a Blu-ray copy of it, I thought, yeah, I'll pick it up. So it is Who Saw Her Die? This is an early 70s giallo film starring George Lazenby, who's probably best known for playing James Bond in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And he basically plays this sculptor who is living in Venice with his young daughter. His young daughter gets murdered near the beginning of the film, and it's all about him obviously coming to terms with that and then trying to investigate who committed the murder, and you know, the police are obviously involved as well. And yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid giallo film. Not one of the best I've ever seen, but it was a decent little thriller. George Lazenby is really good in it. The only downside is that his voice is dubbed, which is a little bit annoying. So I think the character he's playing is meant to be American, and he's obviously an Australian actor. So yeah, they dub his voice with some American actor, so it doesn't really feel like you're fully watching George Lazenby. But still a really solid film, great visuals, great score by Ennio Morricone. And it feels a little bit like a precursor to the film Don't Look Now, which was also set in Venice, but that didn't come out for, I think, another couple of years after this one. But yeah, solid giallo film and worth checking out. So that is Who Saw Her Die? Right, so next up, these two movies I picked up on a deal from Amazon. I think the deal was 2 for £15, and I think originally both of these items were retailing at $16.99. And I just wasn't really willing to pay that much for them. But as soon as that deal came up, I thought, yeah, I've got to jump on that. So the first one we have here is Last Hero in China. This is from 88 Films. This is a film starring Jet Li, and it's basically about him and a whole load of students who, well, they open this martial arts school, and it just happens to open next door to a brothel. And then there's this whole sort of kidnapping scheme that happens, and the students kind of get caught in the middle of it, and all hell kind of breaks loose after that. I thought it was a pretty fun movie. It was a little bit overly silly for my liking, and I think sometimes you can get that with Jet Li movies. I think his brand of action can sometimes be very hit and miss for me, but overall I thought it was a decent little film. Really nice release from 88 Films, lovely slipcover, reversible artwork, you get a poster, all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, that is Last Hero in China. And then the other film that I picked up in that 2 for 15 offer was The Medallion, starring Jackie Chan. Now, yeah, I'm a huge fan of Jackie Chan. I'll watch him in anything. But this movie, I was very reluctant to pay full price for this one, just because I'd heard very negative things about it, really. This is one of his later American films. But I actually thought this was a pretty decent little movie. It's very much catered to kids. It feels very much like a kid's film, but it's actually quite fun. He plays this guy who basically gets killed, and then he gets brought back to life, and he ends up having to fight Julian Sands, who he plays the villain, and there's this whole sort of mystical plot going on. You've even got Lee Evans in there playing Jackie Chan's sidekick. Bit of a strange pairing, but they work quite well together. And yeah, it's just got some fun action scenes. Jackie Chan looks like he's having a good time, and yeah, it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So yeah, that is The Medallion. Next up, we have another release from 88 Films, this one fairly new, and it is The Holy Virgin versus The Evil Dead. So yeah, this is one of those category-free Hong Kong action horror films where it mixes Hong Kong action with horror along the likes of, you know, things like Evil Dead, as the title suggests. But yeah, this film, it stars Donnie Yen. He plays this teacher who is very quiet and very book smart, but then at the same time he seems to have all these martial arts skills. Doesn't really make a lot of sense, but there you go. And he's on like a trip with his students. His students all get killed by this monster, and he's the only survivor, and he decides he needs to find out what's happened to them. And it turns out this monster is part of a cult, and this cult want to take over the world. And yeah, that's basically it. I think sometimes these action horror films from Hong Kong can be very hit and miss. They can sometimes be a little bit overly goofy for my liking. But this one I thought was pretty decent. It's got some fun action scenes in it. It's got quite a lot of gore in there, and it's even got some nudity. And it's a lovely release from 88 Films. Love the artwork on this one. And again, reversible artwork, poster, booklet, all that good stuff. So yeah, overall, it was a pretty decent film. It was better than I expected it to be. So yeah, that is The Holy Virgin versus The Evil Dead. Next up, we have another brand new release from 88 Films, and we have Island of Fire. So yeah, this is an early 90s action film starring Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, Andy Lau, Tony Leung. They were basically like four of the biggest actors in Hong Kong at the time this film came out. So it's quite crazy that they were able to get together in one film. But it's a bit of an interesting film. It's basically like this prison action thriller. The four of them all play prisoners. But what's kind of strange about it is that they don't really share any like screen time together. It's kind of like an anthology film where it follows each different one of their characters throughout the film before they all kind of come together at the very end for like this action finale. It's a strange movie, but it's pretty fun. Very flawed, but it's just got some good fight scenes in it, some good action scenes, and all that good stuff. I've heard stories that I think the only reason the four of them were in it is because they owed like the producers favors, and that none of them really wanted to be in this movie, but they were kind of forced into doing it. But still a fun movie nonetheless. Really nice release from 88 Films, reversible artwork and all that. Love this artwork, love that artwork too. So yeah, really nice release from 88 Films. That is Island of Fire. Last one now from 88 Films, I promise. This is a 4K release from them, and it is The Bodyguard from Beijing, starring Jet Li. And yeah, this is basically Hong Kong's version of The Bodyguard, the film that starred Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston. Yeah, Jet Li plays a bodyguard who has to protect this woman who was the witness to a murder. And it's as simple as that, and the whole film is him basically protecting her from all the people who want her dead. It's a fun little action movie. It's not amazing, but I had a good time with it. And it's definitely a lot better than the Kevin Costner Bodyguard, that goes without saying. But yeah, it's another really nice release from 88 Films. You get all the usual stuff in there, all the bells and whistles and all that. But yeah, pretty decent film. That is The Bodyguard from Beijing. Next up, we have a movie from Vinegar Syndrome. Yeah, I think I kind of stumbled across the trailer for this movie. I'd never heard of it before, but after seeing the trailer, I was immediately interested in checking it out, and I'm really glad that I did. It is Undeclared War. So yeah, this is basically like a East meets West action buddy cop film, where this American cop and this cop based in Hong Kong have to team up together to fight against this international terrorist group that have relocated to Hong Kong. The leader of the terrorist group is played by Vernon Wells, who's probably best known for being in Commando and Mad Max 2 and films like that. And yeah, I thought this film was absolutely brilliant. A really gritty, brutal action movie that is just so much fun. And it's a lovely release from Vinegar Syndrome. Artwork's great. I think you get like a poster and a booklet in this. The poster's kind of got this sort of artwork on it. And yeah, it's just a great action buddy cop film. And don't be put off by the fact that this film is set in Hong Kong. It's not a foreign language film. There is a little bit of subtitles in there, but for the most part, this is an English language movie because I think the majority of the cast are Western speaking actors. So yeah, definitely check this one out if you like your early 90s, late 80s action B movies, because yeah, this was a really fun movie. So yeah, that is Undeclared War. Next up, we have a Scream Factory 4K. Yeah, I'm slowly trying to build up my collection of Scream Factory titles. They tend to be quite expensive, so I only tend to buy maybe one or two a month. And this is the one that I got in August, and it is The Burning. So yeah, I've seen this movie many times before. I own the previous Arrow Blu-ray of it, the Steelbook of it, but been wanting to upgrade this one to 4K. Yeah, this is a great little slasher film. It's probably one of the best sort of standalone slasher movies from the early 80s. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. I know some people might say it's a bit of a Friday the 13th knockoff, but as the story goes, apparently this film was conceived before Friday the 13th, but it just ended up not being released until after Friday the 13th. But yeah, it's just got some fun moments in it, lots of gore. It's got a pretty decent cast, a lot of familiar faces in this one who at the time were fairly unknown. And yeah, it's just a very, very enjoyable early slasher film from the 80s. And yeah, looks great on 4K. So yeah, that is The Burning. Next up, we have my first ever pickup from Kino Lorber. And this is a 4K of a movie that I absolutely love. And it was always going to be a day one pickup for me. So it is Sudden Death, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. So yeah, this is an action movie from 1995. Van Damme plays this former firefighter who's now a security guard, and when the movie begins, he's working security for this big hockey game that's taking place in the stadium. So yeah, loads of people obviously go to watch the game in the stadium, and then soon after that, the stadium gets taken over by terrorists who threaten to blow it up if the authorities don't give in to their demands. And Van Damme plays the security guard who basically wages a one-man war against this group of terrorists. It's basically a Die Hard clone. It's a Die Hard knockoff, but I absolutely love this film. It is easily my favourite Van Damme film. I just think it's got some great action in it, really tense story, really slick direction from Peter Hyams. And it's just got some fun action scenes, some fun fight scenes, and even the music in it is really good. I always forget how good the music is in this one. And yeah, it's just such a fun movie. And I would even go as far to say I think it's probably one of the most underrated action films from the 90s. it definitely doesn't get the credit it deserves. So yeah, that is Sudden Death on 4K. Next up, we have a new release from Arrow Video, another 4K title, and that is Silence of the Lambs. So yeah, this is the limited edition from Arrow Video directly from their store. I think this is like the store exclusive version. I think this is like an old artwork from the film. And yeah, I don't need to say too much about Silence of the Lambs. It's a classic sort of serial killer thriller. Anthony Hopkins, Jodie Foster, they're just fantastic in this movie. And yeah, it's just one of the best from the 90s. And yeah, great box set from Arrow Video. And yeah, a fantastic movie. I don't need to say much more than that. If you haven't seen Silence of the Lambs, definitely check it out. Last one now, and again, another new release from Arrow Video, and it is the Mexico Trilogy. This is the trilogy of 3 films directed by Robert Rodriguez, basically about the sort of the character of the El Mariachi and his story across 3 films. The latter 2 films, the title character is played by Antonio Banderas. And yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen these films. I always remember loving Desperado, the middle film, as a kid. But it's been so long since I've seen the other 2. I rewatched El Mariachi the other night. That's the only film in the trilogy that is in its Spanish language. And yeah, I had such a great time revisiting that one. The last film in it, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, I probably haven't seen that since it came out, which was 2003. So it'll probably be like watching a brand new movie when I check that one out. But yeah, I always remember having a good time with these films. And yeah, as soon as Arrow announced them, I knew I was going to get them. Desperado, the middle one, is in 4K, and the other 2 are just Blu-ray. But yeah, really nice set from Arrow Video. So yeah, that is the Mexico Trilogy. So there you go, guys. That is everything that I have purchased for the month of August 2024. Let me know in the comments below if you've seen any of these movies or if you picked up any of these particular releases. I would really love to hear your thoughts on it. So thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you all again very soon on the next one. So take care, guys.